Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, the sanctuary for wellness professionals like therapists, coaches, creators, and more who are looking to over-deliver to their clients.
We uncover the truth behind cutting-edge wellness products by going straight to the founder.
We use our backgrounds in neuroscience, chemical engineering, and marketing to ask the hard questions in order to eliminate bias, misinformation, and fancy marketing language.
Allowing you to make better wellness decisions and recommendations for yourself and your clients.
So if you're a leader in the health and wellness space, welcome. This podcast was designed for you.
Join us every week for interviews that will change how you think about wellness.
All right, welcome back to the podcast where we help health-conscious consumers find innovative, science-backed wellness products by cutting through the hype, misinformation, and market noise. Today, we're talking to Vadim. He's a former professional basketball player, the German national team, and in the U.S. After his career, he transitioned into the corporate world, leading multinational companies and serving as a CEO of various private firms, including Groupon. In 2019, though, Vadim founded Bionic, a health tech company offering personalized supplements based on blood test data. Under his leadership, Bionic has raised millions of dollars from investors, expanded to 12 countries, built one of the most diverse biochemical databases on Earth, and has partnered with the top medical institutions and athletic organizations ever. Welcome to the podcast, Vadim.
Thanks, Cody. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Pumped. This is very exciting.
Let's do this.
So we believe that who people are outside of work, they bring into their work. And so to really know someone, I want to know you, but not through your own words. So a question I love to start with is, if we asked your parents, if we asked your mom or your dad to describe you, what qualities do you think they talk about the most?
Probably ambitious, dedicated would be the two words they would probably say. Mom would probably say something nice, which I don't know why she still thinks that way about me, but there would be something around things that make me blush. Or a caring person, something like this, which I don't want my friends and colleagues to know too much of. So yeah, but I think dedication, ambition is one of those things that from childhood on was something that, especially with my dad, when we would discuss certain things, if I wouldn't reach for the most ridiculous things, he would always be surprised by me because he's so used to me thinking spaceship instead of, airplane.
I like that. So was bread, was that something that he did or he was passionate about as well?
My dad was 19 when I was born, was a professional tennis player and number one tennis player in all of Russia. So he was a young dad and professional athlete and super successful and good and smart. So he definitely was a role model, growing up. But no, he never understood where it would come from because, again, he always called himself more a realist. And I became more of an optimist in that regard. But I think definitely from a discipline ambition perspective and, result orientation, definitely there was a push there from his side. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to flip the question around and ask you, at the end of your life, what would you want people to think of you?
Somebody who cared more about the others than cared about himself. I think that's what we should all strive for. Somebody who put his family in a good place going forward, even when he's not around anymore. And I think we all want a legacy. We don't want to believe in the day that once you're gone, you're completely, wiped off. You all want to leave something behind. Everybody wants to leave something behind that's hopefully good. And there's this saying all you really have is your name. So your name lives on even when you're gone. So if you treat your name right, you should be okay.
Heck
I love that.
I love that. Reminds me of the story of the Nobel Peace Prize and how that was founded and stuff. So something that's interesting in relation to this is if I knew you in middle school, would I have known you got here? If we were best friends, would I have known you? Could I have predicted you'd be here?
Yes, because if you look back at yearbooks, who was most likely to build a big company, who's most likely to become a CEO, who's the most arrogant, every single yearbook, I'd be the one who would be strive for the most, do the most, pretend to know the most. There was a funny thing when I was already in university, my freshman year, coach was making fun of me and some of my teammates would call me CEO because I was reading the Wall Street Journal in the locker room while everybody else was watching SportsCenter. So yeah, you could have predicted that. Maybe not middle school, but definitely by high school, yeah.
Awesome. Just keep him out of the room as CEO, basically.
No. I wasn't. I was a decent student up till maybe 10th grade, and then a switch flipped, and I was like, you know what? I'm really good at this. I should probably, invest more.
Yeah.
So probably by 15, 16. Until then, I could be anything.
Okay. Vadim, what is the hardest thing you've had to do or overcome in your life?
The funny part is it's always the hardest thing until you reach the next hardest thing. So, if you take professional sports, I tore my ACL 4 times, right? So I have the most torn ACLs in professional career. I think it was a Wikipedia page. They're like, I'm the only athlete who ever came back after 4 torn ACLs. One of those ACLs I'm torn in front of my parents during a basketball game when they flew out to New York to see me play. Yeah, but now if I look back now, what was a torn ACL? 6 months of rehab, laying around playing PlayStation. It's not that bad. But at that moment, it felt like my whole world collapsed. Like the thing I built my whole life around. It's like the most important thing in my life is gone. And then, then you're probably getting to the corporate world. And once you're in the corporate world, it's like, okay, but when you work actually a job and you're an employee, how bad is it? Okay, you didn't hit a deadline. You didn't hit a, performance review. You think it's like, you didn't get the raise that you wanted. But then you get to the next problem. And then when you become an entrepreneur, that's when, I don't know if I can curse here, that's when it hits the fan. Then it's when it's like, wow. So that's what real problems look like. You don't have runway to pay salaries for your employees who you promised to. They should leave their companies and they should support your family based on the trust that you know what you're doing. You're a freaking imposter. Like you're like, you don't know anything. You're fake. Like this is the stuff that creeps in your mind. I mean, the company is called the Death Valley. So Death Valley for businesses, when you do annual revenue between 2 to 5 million, which means you're too big to close and too small to matter. And when you're stuck in that Death Valley for years and years and years, and you're like, everybody's coming like, oh my God, you're so great. I'm like, no, it's just PR, guys. It's like, I'm just pretending that I'm great. It's not really that great because you're publicly, you need to, the persona needs to be there. You need to be like this incredible leader and brand. Because otherwise people, if you're questioning yourself, what should the consumer do? Right. But then deep down inside, you know that you haven't done anything yet. All you did is you raised money to put into something that you believe will one day change the world. But how many people think that? I mean, I think 95% of startups fail. They don't get to Series B. Like, we know the data, the statistics is against you as a founder. So I think to answer your question is, the hardest things becomes harder and harder every time. It's the new hardest thing. But from a athletic level, the moment you realize you will never reach your full potential because injuries are on your way. And then I think from a corporate level, I remember I just joined a new company, humongous, interesting role. Everything was great. And I was told 2 weeks in, by the way, this will be the highest position and the highest salary you will ever have. And although deep down inside, I knew that, I was like, why would you tell me this? Why would you tell me at 30 something that there's a ceiling that I will never break through? Like, who does this? And I was like, in my head, it was like, okay. And it was not a hard moment, but it's something that I will always remember. And I will always make sure I avoid talking to my teammates about, because I never want to put the ceiling on anyone, especially in the middle of their career when they're trying to create something valuable, right? So there's different moments. But again, as a founder, you have days where you're sitting on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. On your bed and you're crying and you're like, how the hell is everything going wrong at the same time? Like this. Like,
oh my God, dude. I feel
I've
had those moments myself too.
Yeah. Again, like you launch a UK company that 5 months later they exit the UK market. You launch a blood testing service, at-home blood testing service. COVID hits and the nurse is not allowed to go to people's homes. Like you're just sitting there like, is there anything else that could go wrong, right? Like then you hit with the pandemic. Then you have issues. Like it's everything comes together at once. And then every time you're like, it's hard enough to build a business without the outside noise. And then the outside noise hits you and then you're just like, okay. So the good thing is though, when you meet other founders or speak to other people who go through this, the bonding experience is insane because it takes one to know one. And then you just like, it gets to this point where you're like, okay, we'll get through this. I'm not the first one. I'm not the last one. And it builds character.
It's like shared trauma in a way, almost like
100%.
I call it
100%.
I call us anxious achievers is what I call like founders and things like that. Like that's what we are.
And one other thing is that I realized, and I don't think I've ever publicly shared this, but at some point you get to this point where you just want to be transparent. You as a founder, you always think you're not working enough. You as a founder, you always think you're not good enough. You as a founder, you always think somebody else is better at this. You shouldn't be in this position. And that's fine. But then when you actually talk to other founders, or when you look at under the hood of other companies, you actually get to the point where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not that bad. You know what? I'm actually okay. And then you speak to people who used to talk to you, who used to work in your companies. You're like, hey, by the way, you were a good boss 10 years ago. And you're like, really? Me? Like, yeah, the bosses after they were not that good. And then when like everything's coming together, you're like, okay, there's a balance between this anxiousness and this feel of self-doubt and this, I'm a superstar, I can do everything, because it's also not good. Because you need to have the right balance where like, hey, actually, I'm good at this. We'll get this done without feeling, constantly questioning yourself. Because again, as I said, if you question yourself, everybody else feels that.
The Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger did research on this kind of concept, and the most successful people, founders and CEOs in their portfolio, had 3 beliefs. One, that they are the best at everything. They just have the psychopathic belief they are the best. They also have the psychopathic belief that they are not good enough and that they suck and they're an imposter. And then the third thing is they can delay gratification at a psychopathic level. Those 3 things predict success of a founder, like CEO the most.
It makes sense. Again, it makes sense. You need to believe more than anybody else. You need to lead. You need to jump first off the cliff. Like War was saying, building a startup is jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. Now that you have to get together, combine, and then actually open up before you crash, right? It's an incredible experience, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but if you're already on the path, go on hard.
Oh yeah, baby. So let's dive into your entrepreneurial journey here a little bit. One of the questions I like to ask is that there are other companies that do blood testing and they do supplements. Why did you not just buy theirs and start your own company instead? Like, why is that?
Sure. I think we'll go back a little bit. It's 2017. Former professional athlete, works in the corporate world, realizes that I have symptoms that I'm not happy with. Lethargic, brain fog, the difficulties of staying focused very long, overweight, energy levels are not there. The things that I was probably 30 something, don't expect to happen at that early stage with the background and the resources that I have, right? I have a personal trainer, I have a dietitian, I go to the gym, I work out. And although I do all this, I don't feel the way I'm supposed to be feeling. That starts my journey. I talk to people. I read books. I read, For Our Body. I start drinking bulletproof tea back then. Whatever it is, like you do everything that you just think it should improve you. Nothing of that helps. So you decide to, branch out, get additional information. And I always recommend to see a doctor. So I go see the doctor. Highly recommended endocrinologist. He looks at me, listens to my symptoms, goes through everything, nods, says, yeah, I know what's going on. I know what to do. And he says at the end of the consultation, let's do a in-depth blood test for $1,000, and then we'll know exactly what to do in the future. I said, I love it. Let's do it. I pay $1,000. I'm like, okay, it's a big investment, but it's my health. It's worth it. I wait for a week. I come back, and I expect this holy grail moment where he will tell me exactly what I need to do to improve upon my symptoms. I come in. He'll say hi. He prints out the PDF with my results on it, looks at it for 20 seconds. I can tell it's the first time he's ever looked at it. Looks at it, looks at me, looks at it, and says, yeah, you're fine. And that moment is like, what do you mean I'm fine? He's like, you're fine, you're not ill. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, you're not ill. I'm like, doctor, that's fine. I'm great. I'm happy. I didn't come to you because I was ill. I came because I had all the symptoms, and I still have the symptoms. And he's like, listen, there's nothing here that I think I can treat with prescription. So from my perspective, you're a healthy human being. And I'm like, okay, but I would like to optimize. And that's when the conversation went in a back and forth. And I realized that traditional medicine is not for optimization. It's actually reactive to when something already has happened that needs healing, right? So that's 2017. And this is the moment, as you said, I walk out and I'm like, okay, traditional medicine, other doctors, what's out in the world? What can I find? And I research. And I start researching, what does Silicon Valley do? What do professional teams do? I go to professional teams, say, hey, when you buy players, what do you do? They're like, we test them. And what do you do afterwards? Like, what do you mean what we do afterwards? We test them, and if they're healthy, we buy them. I'm like, but don't you continuously track how they, over time? Like, no, we don't. I'm like, okay, what does the Silicon Valley do? This is 2017. So they had 23andMe, right? So it's DNA testing. I'm like, that's great. DNA, very interesting. A lot of people buy it. And I'm like, wait, but DNA it doesn't change. It's always the same. You have a DNA that showcases you whatever you have, it's chronic, right? So when something is chronic, I don't know how my lifestyle impacts my chronic level. Like, it doesn't change my DNA level. So I'm like, okay, so DNA is interesting, but you can't see any progress over time. Then I looked at companies who do personalized supplements, as they call them, by putting supplement pills in bags. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's so smart. Instead of buying different cans of supplements, I can buy them personalized to me. And I started looking at this business model, and I realized that over 80% of the people after the first month stopped buying them just go to GNC or some pharmacy, drugstore, and just buy the cans because it's the same pills from the same cans. You would just pay 3 times the money for somebody else to put, the pills into a bag. I'm like, yeah, that's not it. And then I see this company who does at-home blood testing with like finger pricks. Interesting enough, all they do is they just send you a result. And I'm like, that's okay. That's interesting. They're like, and you see that people keep using every 3-6 months. I'm like, that's great. But then there is no usage. You have data of your results, but there's no follow-up. So I was like, in my mind, I'm like, it would be very smart if somebody can express to me or explain to me what happens inside of me, like on a DNA level, do this on a regular basis, like the blood testing kits, and provide me solutions that actually match the need of my body at this given moment in time. And this is where Bionic started. Bionic started not because there's something out there that's not out there. It started because nobody combined information that changes over time with actionable solutions that are personalized to me. So when you're saying there's something out there, I'm like, of course there's something out there. If somebody else, who's my number one competitor? You know what my number one competitor is? It's a doctor who gives you a blood test, tells you your vitamin D is low, and tells you to go buy vitamin D. That's my competitor. It's not a different company. It's what we've been doing for decades, doing a blood test, and he would have been telling you you're deficient in something, or you have too much of something, so stop eating fish, your micro levels are too high, or stop adding vitamin D, your vitamin D levels are too low. So Bionic was based on my realization that there's nothing out there that takes advantage of the innovation in the sphere of blood testing while providing personalized solutions. So that's how everything started. Not because there's nothing out there, but because nothing out there was actually integrated into each other.
Kind of like the iPhone. Cool. Like Steve Jobs took all these different things and created one innovative iPhone, but it was all existing technologies. Phones existed, iPods existed, or like music players existed, and you kind of pieced it all together.
And the cool thing is, I hope they become even better. My dream is like, this Bionic is not a blood testing company. If somebody can invent a replacement for blood testing, like what they're trying to do with scanning your face, or all the wearables coming up, or the Neuralinks, or whatever is the next level, I'll be the first one, because then we can go from a quarterly testing to daily testing. So I'm on the forefront. Genius. I'm supportive. Whatever I'm looking at, but Bionic, in the end, what we are not a blood testing or a supplementation company. We are a personalized solution company that gives you a personalized solution to whatever your health needs at this given moment. So the more information we get, the reason why we, have been partnering with companies, with wearable companies, to get additional data to better understand what you're doing. Like if somebody has low testosterone levels, there's several reasons for them. One is good and one is not good. What do you mean is a good reason for low testosterone? Well, if you're training for an Ironman, your testosterone level cannot be high, or otherwise you're undertrained. Because if you're training a lot, your level will be below average, because that's standard in that phase, right? But if you're a an office worker who sits and doesn't move around more than 5,000 steps a day, and your testosterone level is low, that's probably a different reason. And it's not as good. So there's anything from an activity level perspective, from personalization perspective, every person is different, and the same value can have different meanings.
Right. So betting on y'all is betting on the future, because you're going to continue to innovate. And as the world gets better, you'll put that in, and it just becomes a beautiful little feedback loop for you. That's awesome.
And it gets, the best part is the user wins. At the end of the day, the user wins, because the user wins because it's getting more accessible. There's more data. There's more information. There's more. It's quicker. It's quicker to respond and react. I think it's a huge progress happening right now. There's a lot of inflow of innovation, a lot of inflow in data, a lot of inflow in the integration aspect of things. But the number one thing is that most important thing is that we're waiting for is there's a shift in consumer behavior, because people realize one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
If Chloe goes to a drugstore and there's an omega-3 can bottle, and it says take 2.
Yeah.
Well, you take 2, I take 2, my grandma takes 2. Well, I weigh 260, and I need 7 of them. Chloe needs 2, and my grandma shouldn't have any, because at that stage maybe it's bad for her organism. But everybody takes 2. The dosages that you get in supplements that are off the shelf have to be so low that if a child by accident swallows them, nothing happens to the child. Well, that's not really in line with somebody who's trying to optimize his health at 260 pounds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So I think that people understand that. People start understanding, you know what, off the shelf, the recommendations, general recommendations is a baseline, which is better than nothing. But if you're trying to get a result out of it, you need to customize.
Yeah, absolutely. And very often these recommended values are, what's enough to not get you sick, but not to optimize your health whatsoever.
Yes, exactly.
And so talk to us a little bit more about kind of who your ideal customer is. Like, who are you marketing this to?
This is interesting. So I'll start with the DNA of Bionic. The DNA of Bionic. So it's very clear. I have no medical background. Although I'm a professional athlete, I went into corporate. I'm, my background is business development, strategy, and building companies. So I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have to know how to do that. And on my journey to, as I said, looking what's in the market, I met a lot of incredible people. And one of those people was a neuroscientist who, between 2011 to 2017 in Switzerland, was creating a system how to optimize Olympic athletes, their cognitive and physical function. And she realized that when optimizing the micronutrient levels, which means getting them to the optimal level, professional athletes were on average 10 days per year less sick. Now, if you give a professional athlete 10 days more of healthy days per year, that means they can work out more, they recover more, and their progress is bigger. So they were able to showcase a 6.9% increase in physical function on standardized tests and up to 150% on cognitive tests.
Whoa.
So the DNA aspect of Bionic, we're doing this for professional athletes first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
And my question to the neuroscientist was like, hey, question, when that 24-year-old Olympic athlete has an improvement of 6.9% of physical function, what would happen to an average person? And he was like, 35 to 50. I'm like, 35 to 50% improvement? He's like, yes. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
To answer your question is, Bionic was built to impact the performance of the highest performing athletes in the world. Our consumer today is the person who doesn't want to use things off the shelf because he has personal needs for the body and personal goals for the body. If you look average, it's I think if you're from a female perspective, it's the 30 plus very cautious, proactive person who wants to stay ahead of whatever's going to happen in the future. We used to call it anti-aging. Now it's called slow aging because there's no anti-aging. So it's the process of how do I understand my body needs at this given moment to keep my energy levels and keep my performance at the highest level possible. And the male perspective is the ones who, and the males are always a little bit later in that journey, when they're like, no, let me continue into my 40s to perform as I did in my 30s. Let me be as sharp as I can be. But that's from an average perspective. If you look from a pyramid perspective, we have the highest, most famous professional athletes using Bionic for years. We have players at Manchester United using Bionic. So we have Ironman winners. We have some of the most famous names in the world have been Bionic for years because they believe, and good thing with Bionic is they actually see how the product is evolving over time with them and improving their blood values.
If you had to define your dream outcome, like what's the dream outcome for these people in like 2 sentences? What do you hope for them? What's your dream outcome you want them to achieve, would you say?
For the users of Bionic?
Yeah.
So this is interesting. So we did over 100,000 people, right? And when you do over 100,000 people, you see different kind of blood results. And we did over 100,000 people, and only 2 people had ideal blood results at the moment of the blood test, right? So imagine you come into Bionic, you're like, I would like to receive personalized supplementation. You do the blood test, and your blood result is perfect. We're writing back and like, we just would like to inform you, your blood result showcases that you have no deficiencies, you have a perfect blood result, you don't need any further supplementation. Whatever your lifestyle and routine is currently, please continue on. You think we as a company achieved the goal because we informed the person everything's perfect. This person said, no, I want to maintain, please send some supplementation. I want to be on this level for as long as possible. So you realize that getting to perfection is not enough. It's maintaining perfection. And we know that optimal micronutrient levels allow you to feel stronger, be sharper. for a longer period of time. And if we can take this off your plate, because the word supplementation, I'm very, very always transparent on this. And from a health perspective of a person, supplementation is maybe the 5th or 6th most important pillar. It's nutrition, it's activity, it's sleep, it's mental well-being. If you don't have those 4, who cares about your supplements?
Yeah.
Right? Nobody cares about your supplements. So I want to make sure that nobody goes out there and thinks I'm selling a wonder pill. That's nothing about the wonder pill. But if you think about your sleep, if you think about your food, you think about your activity levels, and you're in a well mental state, supplementation can add on top of that so you can enjoy yourself more, be more productive, recover quicker, and have a better feeling about where your life is going. So this is something where we're coming into play with. So to answer your question is, I want people to see progress. Once they receive progress, this is a little bit like when people are like, how long should I take supplementation? Well, I'm like, how long do you plan on sleeping well and eating right? Like, what's
such a good question.
What's the timeline? Because people are like, should I take it for 3 months or 6 months? I'm like, how long should you go to bed and sleep for 7 hours? Are you going to do this for another 3 weeks, or are you going to try this for the rest of your life? Like, this is the thing where people, for whatever reason, they put supplementation in a category of a timely, limited prospect. And the reason for that is because when they were growing up, doctors would tell them, hey, take this for 3 months. Because after 3 months, your body is probably adapted to it. But we're saying your doctor was right. You should not take something longer than 3 months because your body has changed over time and your demands have changed over time. So you should probably adjust the micronutrients that you need. To answer your question, it's to elevate, optimize, and maintain, and to change the mindset that this is not a 3-month cycle, but actually part of your lifestyle.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you guys validate these types of things? You mentioned like you have a neuroscientist at the beginning. Like, how do you guys continuously, like we're both science, we have science backgrounds and stuff. How do you continuously validate the claims you make in the research you do, all that kind of stuff? Like, what's that process look like for y'all?
Okay. There's 3 answers to this. One is the most obvious and quantifiable one. You come to us with a blood test, you use the product, and 3 months later you do a new blood test. We're the only company with a quantifiable feedback loop that showcases the product actually works. Now, let's say you are not knowledgeable enough, or you don't want to dig deep enough into what your new blood test is showing you. We also have 25 medical publications. We also have 2 university studies. We also have some of the leading health institutions having implemented us for years and been using us for years with their patients and their clients. And the only reason why we can do that is because there is actually a quantifiable feedback loop that this product works. So any company out there in the market who sells you by showcasing you happy people running topless on the beach is trying to sell you the emotions that you will feel when you use their product. They sell you hope. We're not trying to sell you hope. We're trying to sell you actual results that quantifiable you can check. There's people who have significant improvements. They don't feel any difference. They're like, no, I feel the same. I'm like, yeah, you feel the same. But you were pre-diabetic. Your uric acid levels were too high. Your vitamin D level were too low. And your B6 and B9 was too low. And now the chance of you getting sick is lower. You can focus longer. And we got you out of the highway to getting to a chronic disease. And this is a little bit, we're so confident. I am in the rare situation where I'm a founder of a business that has the same motivation as my consumer. My consumer comes to me because he wants to buy a product that works and makes him better. Well, great. I'm providing you a product that works and makes you better. Otherwise, you will stop using my product and most likely also go publicly and say this is BS. Well, my consumer has every 3 months the chance to cross-reference and check if what we're doing is actually working.
I love it. Science built into your process. That's the scientific method built into your like product delivery. That's wild.
Because it's, again, you're at this point now, you're like, does it work? But does it really work? Like, that's the question, right? That's you want to answer that question by saying, yes, look for yourself. Yes, show your doctor. Yes, read the papers.
I'm super curious as to how you landed on granules, because that's something unique. You know, I used to work in big pharma, so I'm really familiar with like drug delivery mechanisms, like encapsulating, pill pressing. And so for me, this is super, super unique to see something like this.
So this is, with giving you a background, I might tell you something exciting. So 25 years ago in Switzerland, our partner was working in the pharmaceutical aspect. And she realized that when people take pills, what happens is that there's a toxicity, there's a toxic reaction in your body. Before whatever is in the pill can be absorbed, the body will first fight whatever the reaction to the pill it got. So if it's an insulin spike, might be based from the starch inside of the pill, or there's gelatin in it. So whatever the pill was made of, first created toxicity before the absorption started. So he thought to himself, there's almost 30 years now. He thought to himself, why are we selling something that should do good, but first does bad? So there's first does harm and then does good. And he went on this path to find a delivery mechanism for supplementation and micronutrients in granular form, because he realized granules don't cause spikes in insulin. They have no gelatin. There's no starch in them. And they have what's called a slow absorption mechanism, where over 12 hours they're being absorbed on let's call it a proportional level. So because there is no one spike, it's over time. So when the neuroscientist did the clinical trials and the trials with the athletes, he would use the granule because he could give to them in the morning and in the evening, instead of giving them 50 different pills throughout the day. Because as you know, different mechanisms, different supplements block each other. So you can't take certain things at the same time because they start blocking each other. But because granules are proportionally delivered, you can take actually something in the morning, something in the evening, so it's easier to adhere to for athletes. So we saw the results, we saw the absorption level, we saw the adherence rates, and we realized, hey, Swiss-made granules are in line with our ethos of highest quality and in line of don't harm before doing good, just do good, right? And this was the reason why we implemented that. And the cool thing about, especially for supplementation, and we all know in the world, there's a lot of supplements. When I was playing Division I basketball, I was not allowed to buy anything from GNC because I might have failed a doping test. I might have failed a doping test because they're putting things in that are not on the label because it's not FDA approved. Yeah. So the cool thing about supplementation in Switzerland is it has the same regulatory as pharmaceuticals. So our supplements are pharmaceutical grade supplements. So you have the granules, you have the quality, there's no spikes, higher absorption, and it just made sense for us to implement that. It's a learning curve. Not everybody loves it right away. But again, what do you want? You want to swallow a pill and feel good about yourself, or you want to actually have progress for your body? And this is something that, again, is part of what I said prior of this journey as a founder. Everybody's like, don't do blood tests. Nobody likes blood tests. Don't do granules. Just put it in a gummy bear. Yeah, guys, I know I can do the easy way. I know I can sell you gummy bears with vitamins in them. I get it. Like, I know I can probably make a decent living of selling gummy bears with vitamins. Yeah. But that's not the reason why I'm doing this.
I love that. You got to do the hard shit. That's beautiful. In relation to blood tests, you mentioned something I'm curious about, and I see a lot when we have clients that collect data on their consumers and stuff. What do you do with the data? How do I know the data is safe? Like, where is it stored? Are you selling it to people? Like, that's like super personal data. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're a UK-based company, so GDPR compliant. Yeah. All the data is anonymized. All the data is stored on the servers, depending on where the location is. Nothing is shared. Everything from your perspective is anonymized data sets. What the data does is, over time, the data will evolve together with you as a consumer. So we can predict going forward what kind of supplementation, what kind of ingredients and dosages you need. So this is the benefit. So the difference between us and a doctor, as I mentioned prior, is from a competitor perspective. A doctor on average has between 100 to 150 patients. So if Chloe, Cody, and Vadim walks in, we're 3 out of 150. The chance that he has somebody who's 6'9", 260 is not that big out of 150. But when you have 100,000 people and the algorithm has 100,000 milestone points where people came in, and, hey, this is the blood value, this will happen after 3 months and after. So as I said in the beginning, there's the largest database on continuous blood testing of micronutrient levels, allows you to better understand the dosage and ingredients the person needs at a given moment, depending on the body's needs and the goals of the person. So the data sets are anonymized, but the data works for you to get you quicker to the optimal levels.
So it's specific data on you that you give. That's anonymous, so they would never know it's Cody's data. But then when you look at it from a macro perspective, you can draw conclusions and make predictions and different types of suggestions based on the overarching data of tons and tons and tons of people, essentially, for me specifically.
The idea is for you, so to get Cody the safest, but at the same time most optimal dosage, is based on prediction of lookalikes of Cody in the past that were given dosages and the reaction of the body to those dosages, how quickly they were adopted. So if you would have joined Bionic 3 years ago, you would have received different recommendation than you receive today, than you receive in 3 years from today.
Got it. Nice.
And this is also
That's
the point
awesome.
where we're saying why innovation is so important, because innovation it plays in our favor. We're welcome innovation. Yeah.
Like from like a woman's health perspective, because women are so hard to study and also to provide supplements for medication for, because we have a monthly cycle.
Yes.
Are you working on anything to help like optimize that? Because I know on days where I'm like ovulating or menstruating, I will have completely different nutritional requirements, and so women are super difficult.
Yes. So first of all, this is the best thing. The women recommendations are based from other women's data sets recommendations. So we understand based on your demographic and the needs. From a blood testing perspective, there's certain days we recommend to do a blood test on. So you have the dates that you're trying to make sure that you have apples to apples in comparisons.
Smart.
So we
Okay.
understand that aspect. And because we're doing this, especially over time, you have actually capability of, you have completely right, because of the menstrual cycle, it is completely different, especially from a hormonal perspective. So you will be able to do this. But this is, again, the reason for personalization, customization while off the shelf. There are women's supplements on the shelf, sure. But again, that's also the one size fits all. Doesn't work like this. So you have certain goals, you have certain needs, but because we're personalized, we can fully adjust to our female audience more than anybody can adjust in the market. Because again, we're talking about 120 components with up to microdosing level accuracy that nobody else can mix together. Especially, again, this is one of the reasons why, we have such a high female user base.
Okay, awesome. Another question I have is you have this, crazy large data set. From all this data that you've gathered, is there anything that's been like really shocking, surprising? Like, generally is the population low on this? Like, has there been, any crazy insights for you?
The scariest thing and still to this day is, so imagine the following. I think people who buy personalized supplements based on blood testing are probably quite innovative, right? Forward thinking, probably well versed in terms of what's out there. And the product is a premium product. They have the means to purchase a premium product, right? So you would think that those people are quite well aware about their health. 22% of our consumers, when getting their blood test, find out that they have medical issues that require medical attention.
Wow.
So people come for the supplements, and almost every fifth of them, actually more than every fifth of them, finds out that there's something that they have to actually go to the real doctor, because we're not a medical company, right?
Yeah.
We do personalized supplementation. Have to see a real doctor because they're either have already a condition or they're about to become a serious condition. So that's the baseline. Baseline is there's every fifth person finds out that there's something with him that requires medical attention. So that's number one. Number two, and that's becoming a little bit more, from a smiling perspective. The first one is more shocking, right? Because, the fear is the strongest factor in terms of motivate people to change something. But then number two is sun exposure has no impact on vitamin D. And this is something that everybody's like, oh, I have to get more into sun or vitamin D. Yes. So the way that vitamin D works, and this is interesting, you need, and I did this research part on it. So the World Health Organization says you need 5,000 IUs of vitamin D per day on average. Actually, that's quite low. I would say it's 10,000, but let's just say they're right. In a half an hour in the sun, you get around 250 to 500 of those IUs without sunscreen. So without sun blockers. So how long do you have to be in the sun with no sunscreen to get the World Health Organization recommended dosage of vitamin D per day? We're talking about several hours, which then would lead to potential health risks like skin cancer because you're in the sun all day with no sunscreen. So when you look at people in the Middle East or from Dubai who are actually exposed to the sun all day, or even people from Florida, they have low vitamin D levels. And everybody who's thinking, London must have very bad levels. Londoners have higher vitamin D levels than people in Dubai. So this is kind of like a little bit of those things where everybody talks about, oh, sun is this and that. Yeah. But then you have other things that are crucial. And then I think also gives me a lot of thought. over 70% of women have low iron levels, which most women know that they have low iron levels, and most people know that if you have low iron levels, your energy levels are lower. That was not the shocking thing. The shocking thing is that over half of those people who have low iron levels were supplementing with iron supplements at the moment of the blood test. Which means I am buying supplementation for iron levels. I'm taking irons, and I'm still deficient in iron, which showcases that people have been doing something for a long period of time, putting something in their body, spending money on it, and had absolutely no result on them because the dosages was either too low or the form that which were taken was not absorbed by the body.
Wow.
So I think you see certain levels in behavior patterns where it's like, hey, health checkups are critical and important, and you think you're healthy, you're not. Hey, what you heard from your friends or grandparents or read online? No, vitamin D is not higher because you're more in the sun, because the levels that you really need to not become sick, to improve your immune system, to actually have a better regeneration of your body, are very difficult to receive from the sun alone, especially given the potential side effects. And then, hey, just because you take supplements, it doesn't mean you're good. Just because you take supplements, it means you take supplements, and whatever that means will be seen in the blood test.
That is awesome. I love being able to see this type of macro data. Like, it'd be so interesting to have that much access to data and things like that. So that's awesome. A question I have in relation to information sharing. This is a lot of health and wellness data. Like, and you mentioned that like your background is like business development, marketing, that kind of stuff. Like, what is your perspective on communicating this type of stuff? Like when you're marketing these things, you do see companies that say, you had mentioned they sell the shirt off on the beach type stuff. Like, what is your perspective on that? Like, how do you communicate this complicated stuff, and get people interested? Like,
so we have to be very careful in terms of the claims that you make. And you also don't want to be misleading. And the last thing you don't want to be pretending you're a medical company when you're not. That's very important, especially when you see over 20% of your users needing medical attention, where we come in as a business and say, hey, medical attention needed. Because there's a consultation after every blood test, and the consultation will be used as a forum to have a dialogue and to have good recommendations and then tell people to do that. From our perspective, again, I think we crossed that path building off, the partnerships with the leading health institutions, with the leading athletic institutions, that the product itself is viable and secure and in line with world anti-doping agencies and in line with requirements for whatever that particular league or association has. So we've been through that. I don't want to be overbearing from a promotional aspect as a company because too much information scares people off. Our job is to explain, hey, customization is needed because your body is unique. And the best way to show this is, for one of the examples we had two 25-year-old male influencers who lived together, worked out together, ate together, complete different blood tests. So you think genetics, genetically similar, doesn't mean anything. Oh, lifestyle doesn't mean anything. Food intake doesn't mean anything. Activity level doesn't mean anything. People are different and they need different solutions for their body. And we're now at this point where those customized solutions become more and more accessible. So why put something in your body that your body might not need when you can put something in your body that you know that your body needs and you can see if it works or doesn't work? And our focal point is to educate the market about this. If I throw data at you, 92% of people see significant improvements after 3 months. Yes, but what does it mean for Cody?
Right.
What is significant improvement? Okay, great. But hey, Cody, there is no product in the market that will actually adhere to your needs and support you on the goals better than a customized one. And you can see this works in 3 months from today. Otherwise, you will move on. I think that's a much stronger part. It's transparent, it's with feedback, and it's for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love that. I love tailoring messages to specific cohorts of humans. Like, and I'm a founder too. So it's like, hey, you look for feedback mechanisms in your company, don't you? Yeah. Why don't you do that for your health? Like, those types of things are like, I just love tailoring things to
I mean, like what Diogo Dalot is a player of the year for Manchester United, is the famous football club in the UK. Soccer club in the UK. He said he feels Bionic gives him that extra edge. So he knows that when he takes Bionic, he has an extra edge about his competition because they just take something off the shelf, but he is the one that's personalized. So it gives him the additional motivational factor. This, we're talking about world-class athletes, right?
Yeah.
So you are doing that one extra thing. Oh, you're doing the ice bath, or you're doing the infrared sauna, or you're doing the meditation, or you're doing whatever it is. This is the one additional level that you take towards the highest performance, the highest level, and also to be better, to be better than you were yesterday, to be better than the people around you in terms of in the competition that you're participating in. Whatever the competition is, the competition can just be you at the office, or it can be you, running around with your children. It doesn't matter what the competition is. But again, people who go that extra step, they want to have something advanced that's tailor-made to them.
Absolutely.
I would also love, we're coming towards the end here, but I always like to go to the future. I'm very futuristic focused. Like, talk to me about the future. Like, and it can be the distant future, but like a personalized health, personalized tech, personalized supplements, like where you think it's at and what's your place in it? I would love to see what that like utopia is like in your head.
So I shared this idea maybe twice in my life with someone. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I have this vision that I wake up in the morning, I walk into the kitchen. My fridge has the same shape as a fridge, but it actually has a face scanner, an eye scanner, and a hand scanner. And based on my face, eyes, and hand and temperature of my body, my fridge, or that scanner behind the fridge, realizes what macro and micronutrients it needs. A bottle pops up, and this bottle is trying to be filled with protein, carbs, fats, and micronutrients, depending on how I slept, what my recovery is, what my goals are for what my weight is, and I will receive a personalized nutrition that encompasses macro and micronutrient in once, based on the data sets you received that morning at that given moment. And I want to be part of that future where whatever gets into this bottle, or whatever it's going to be, whatever this nutrition will be, where we play the role of optimizing the micronutrient levels based on your body's needs and goals. So this is where we're heading towards to. The future is personalized, and we're part of that algorithm that tells or supports the technology to get your body what it needs at this given moment.
Wow. So really you want to be like a data AI type company in a way that can inform some of this stuff, or do you want to be delivering the micronutrients into that bottle in the future?
No, we, as I said, maybe somebody invents something better than granules tomorrow. I'm not limited by granules, I'm not like limited by blood. I am fair. My goal is provide personalized solutions. If my algorithm tells me personalized solutions are better shared in the shape or form of something else, or by a third party, I will be the number one supporter of that, because at the end of the day is, if there's something I can give you that shows you a higher level of improvement, then my mission to make health accessible and actionable will be aligned with this improvement, right? My mission is not to sell Cody supplements. I never woke up to sell Cody supplements. I woke up to give you access to better understand your health and give you a solution and actionable towards you. So of course it's an algorithm, personalized algorithm. That's the idea. That's what Bionic is.
That's awesome. What are some adjacent companies in your space, in or around your space maybe, that, because you seem to kind of be like the Steve Jobs dude that is like picking from all these things and putting them together. So you probably are aware of things all over the place. What are some that you're like, holy shit?
No, I mean, listen, as I said beforehand, if you look at wearable companies like Whoop and Aura, right, the more information we have on recovery and the more information we have on sleep, the more information we have on strain, the better we can adjust. If I know your levels are low because you're working out more, or your levels are low because you're sleeping less, it's two different Codys. Like it's two different reasons what you need to receive. In one of those cases, I can actually help you. Another case, I just have to tell you, stop, watching Netflix at 3 a.m., go to bed. Like, there's no supplement in the world that can help you.
Yeah.
And so you have the wearables aspect in terms of a data set perspective. Then you, from a information perspective on health, is from a DNA testing, you have more and more information now. So you can get to the place where what's being better absorbed on what level. And then you look at microbiome, as they call it, the brain of your gut, like what's going on inside of you, how important it is. There's huge progress in this area. So the more information we get, what happens inside of your body and what you do with your body, and you can combine those things, that's helpful to us. So we're very, very excited about this.
Oh, that's super cool.
That's badass. I love that. So like biomes and I forgot, Tony Robbins has a company with Peter Diamandis that they do like, they collect like 20,000 data points on your body or something like that. Those types of companies would be interesting.
Again, there's no such thing as too much data. The only thing is the difference between 2,000 and 3,000 markers will not change you as much as you would hope. That's my whole point. There's a certain amount of data that makes you better proportionally more and more and more, and then additional data will just add to it, and it might become relevant at some point in your life, but not as much as you would hope in this given moment. Our job is to understand and predict data more than actually collect data, because that's how you make it actually accessible. If I tell you I need 5,000 blood markers and DNA markers, and it costs you $30,000, yes, it might be the most precise test in the world, but only X amount of people can actually afford it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also not in line with not in line with our mission. Make health accessible and actionable. I want it to be accessible. So those companies are incredible for us. We can work with those companies because we have the uniqueness of customization, but it's not necessary for the wider audience. What's necessary for the wider audience is there's $250 billion a year of supplements being purchased off the shelf that with a 99.9% percentile most likely do not anything for you particular, what your body needs in that moment or what your goals are in that moment. That's where we are, right? We're trying to change that aspect. What you're saying is the upper level. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But right now, for me, it's important to explain to someone, hey, drink 2 pills is not the right recommendation for all of us.
Yeah. I love when people's actions match their vision too, because I know that, because I talked with Anthony, I can't remember exactly what he does, but he was talking to me about your guys' new quiz, the Go version, BionicGo, which is, you don't have to get a blood draw and seems to be more accessible. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, where does that come from, this accessibility vision?
So as a company, you build, and there's a critical mass. So there's a critical point where you have enough data points where you can actually start predicting things. As I said prior, our goal is not to collect more data. Our goal is to predict better. So what would happen is, let's say Chloe would do the blood test-based product, Bionic Pro, and then somebody else, Mary, will do the quiz. And they both would fill in the 45-question questionnaire about demographic, background, goals, health goals, lifestyle, nutrition, medical history, very, very in-depth. Height, weight, we're the only supplement company who asks those questions because we're the only supplement company who can actually adjust to your height and weight. Nobody else can. They don't even ask. They're like, here's 1 pill. But we would ask all those things, and then Chloe would do the blood test, and the second person, Mary, would not do the blood test. But if their questionnaires would be similar, we would then look for the Go users towards the people who did the blood test in the past and predict what kind of blood results this person would have based on the questionnaire replies.
Holy shit. That is so cool.
So we were able to have the critical mass to be able to predict people without doing the blood test based on the people who did the blood test, what their needs would be. And that made the product more accessible. So we are now, last month, we sold to 65 countries all over the world.
Wow. From
Rwanda to Chile, like everywhere. There's somewhere somebody with a bionic ball with a blue bionic ball running around. because we were able to accumulate the data, build an algorithm, start predicting the needs while being still in line from a blood testing data perspective. What's the most safe and efficient way to give you what you need? They're based on your body's needs and goals. Again, I keep repeating the phrase because that's basically what's the reason for what we're doing.
I love it. Perfect alignment. Like, that's so cool. In relation to this quiz, you go, Chloe.
Oh, I was just saying, I think we just are going over time a little bit, but do you have time to do the last 5 fire off questions? I just want to be mindful of Vadim's time.
What do you think?
By fire, you mean one answer, one word answers? Sure, I can.
Yeah, 1 word ansers.
Well, it doesn't have to be 1 word answers because we changed the signature ones a little bit here. But
no, I'm just, guys, that was a joke. Keep it rolling. Give it to me. Give me the 5 questions.
You're opening on time. I just wanted to be mindful. I don't know if you had anything else after. So what's one question you wish more people would ask you?
I can tell you one question I would like people to ask me less. How tall are you would be the question.
And I feel that.
Yeah. What question I would like people to ask me more? I think why team sport is important. I think that's something that not enough people understand the impact that team sport has on somebody, on his character, on his discipline levels, on his communication, on those kind of things. When I just look around the current generation and, you know, our team members, you can tell very strongly from the background perspective, and you can tell who played a team sport and who didn't. And it's an interesting dynamic. And I think it's nobody asks you that question, but I ask myself that question, like, why people behave a certain way. And I think one of the aspects is what did they do when growing up, and that actually impacts them then their corporate development. This is a little bit of a weird one, but yeah, I've never been asked that question before.
I like that. Chloe and I are both college athletes too, so like we love that vibe.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
100%. I hire for it specifically. Our other business partner played D1 basketball at UNI. I played at Simpson D3, and then Chloe played volleyball. So we love athletes as well.
I think half of our team is former professional athletes, and the other half is hating them for that and are trying to make it up.
I love that. One of the last questions I have before we dive into the final one is Bionic. I'd love to know that name, because I have this, like, my purpose is to create a human AI operating system to unite humanity. And Bionic, techno-humanism, is that any connection at all, or where did that come from?
It's one of the probably rare but best things I ever did was come up with that name. Bionic is bio, so bio is life. It's biology, bio. And NIQ Nick. So because I grew up in Germany, Technik, technology is Technik. So how technology and innovation can impact life. It's Bionic.
Oh, I love that.
Holy shit. That is so cool.
It's a really good name.
It was funny, but dude, like, it's a funny story. Like, I remember I was sitting there, I'm thinking about the company, and we don't even have anything yet. And I see bionic.com is available, and it's like, I need to have this. And there's like, you read in all books, nobody cares about your domain. Nobody. I'm like, no, I'll sell my car and buy that domain. Like, I want that thing. And then you're sitting there, and you're like, and everybody tells you this is the most stupidest thing you can do. You don't have a business. You don't even know if it's worth it. Like, and you're just like, dude, I'm telling you. And now looking backward, like, it was the best decision I could have made, because for the first years, people had no idea what we're doing, but it sounded so familiar. Bionic felt bigger than it was at that moment. Because when you're like, oh, so what are you doing? It's Bionic. Damn. Like, oh yeah, I heard of you guys. I'm like, no, you didn't. But I know you think you do, but you had no clue. So what's your website? Bionic.com. Oh, you're that Bionic. Yes, we're that Bionic. So yeah, it was definitely a differentiator. It was cool. It was fun time. But again, it was the stuff that you do. Like, I can write a book on what not to do, and buying a website which you have to sell your car for is one of them, probably.
That's badass. That's elite level shit right there. I love that.
Yeah, but guys, don't do this at home.
Okay.
I've read somewhere
that I do.
I've read somewhere somebody bought friend.com for $1.8 million.
Oh my
God.
Did you hear that? Like,
I did, yeah.
Yeah. No, don't. but yes, do it. Like, this is.
It's like, no.
Press
button. All right, on a slightly more serious note, last question we'd love to ask people, because we love helping people. Like, this could potentially get in front of millions of people. So what is a partnership or a connection that would really, really help you outside of just giving you money? Like, what's a partnership or connection that would, like, really, really help push Bionic forward? Not just money, though.
Listen, I think the next step for us is to getting into hospitals and health institutions on a post-surgery level.
Mm-hmm.
So what we understand is what we're doing is by choice, right? What we are doing is people want to optimize, but there is millions of people that post-surgery, the body cannot absorb what it needs from nutrition in the levels the body needs, and especially during the recovery phase. And given the fact how supplementation in the past was always looked upon, it's a very serious area where it takes a lot of work and integration with. But it needs to start at some point, and we believe we are that company, given our medical background, given our approach to be quantifiable. I think the biggest change that we can have on people's lives is not the people who want to optimize themselves, but the people whose body needs to optimize itself post a tragic event or post whatever has happened that, to the body. And I think this post-surgery time frame of recovery, it would be the biggest impact for Bionic to the health of the most people that actually need it, not by choice, but because they need it to recover and get back on their feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So healthcare organizations like surgery centers, like things like that could be potentially good connections that would help you that aren't just monetary.
Yes. And again, one thing that I mentioned to you guys when I said, shockingly, when I said around over 20% of our consumers have health issues that they don't know about, this 20% is for the people who themselves bought Bionic. We do wellness, corporate wellness, when the organization buys it for their employees, right? When somebody doesn't buy Bionic themselves, but the organization buys it for them, so there was no initial proactivity level to buy it. The levels of markers are so low at close to 50% of all people that you start thinking, wait, we are seeing the tip of the iceberg. Like, we're seeing the highest of the highest in terms of innovators and health conscious people. The average person who's not proactive, who doesn't think about all those things, they need this so much more. So we understand that we are in a very, very niche space, but the average person is the one who actually needs us.
Yeah.
Not the pro athlete who's trying to get that extra 1%. Great, I'm here for you. But again, as I said in the beginning, the average person, you can get an extra 30%. So this will get there eventually. And the most interesting part is the way you get there is through the elite athletes. Because you don't believe me, but you believe the person you're cheering for. And you don't think I know what I'm talking about, but you see what he's doing. So if he does it, and he has the research and he has the access and he decides to use this product, then I am open to this product. So we're on that path. We have huge news coming up more this year about integrations, about who has been using us for years on the world stage, and we're super excited about this year and beyond.
Damn. So it's trying to push further and further and further and further down the innovation curve, like to get widespread adoption.
Yes, you need to educate. Again, we're here to educate. This is the reason when somebody else does something similar, I'm cheering for it, because the more people talk about customization, the more people think about customization, the more people will switch to customized products.
Hell yeah, that's badass. What's so we talk to people like you a lot. What's a question we always ask people to leave a question for the next guy or girl? Like, what's a question you'd want to ask an innovative health and wellness technology company? The next person we talk to, we're going to ask this question to.
If you could test only one blood marker, which one would it be and why?
Okay.
All right, Vadim, I see you.
Yeah, as I say, guys, I want to leave behind a legacy, not just when I'm dead, but also on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question.
That. Cool. Well, is there any place, thank you so much for hopping on. Is there any place that you want people's eyeballs specifically for you? Where can they find you? What's the best place for them to go?
Everybody's on Instagram. So it's BionicCO on Instagram. It's bionic.com on the website. I'm Vadim_Bionic. Shoot us a message, have interest, reach out, book a consultation, look into it. Like, guys, it's if you already have a blood test, perfect, upload it. Like, you don't even have to buy a new blood test. If your blood test is less than 3 months old, you can upload it and you can review it and you can see if you need something. So again, the idea is to make it accessible. And the most important part is Bionic is now global. So hey, wherever you are, wherever you listen to this podcast in the world, welcome to Bionic.
Hey, I love it. I tell all my friends about my best friend, Kevin Puckett. I was with him last night. He's a high functioning entrepreneur and lawyer. And I told him about Bionic. He's one of your customers and everything, loves it. And I told him I was meeting you. He's like, no freaking way. That's so cool. So we're already preaching it. So thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, Cody.
For your time. We really appreciate it. It was so great to meet you.
Thanks.
Heck yeah. Have a great one. And thank you, everyone, for hopping on to the pod. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe for more. Peace.